Michael Jackson walks into the rehearsal studio at 2:00 the morning, carrying nothing, just himself, and the weight of something nobody else in the room can see. The dancers are stretching. The band is warming up. Everyone is professional. Everyone is ready, except nobody is ready for what is about to happen, because what Michael does tonight doesn't just stop a rehearsal, it changes the life of a 19-year-old backup dancer named Marcus Williams, in ways neither of them will fully understand until years later. Los Angeles, January 1992. The Forum at Inglewood, 5 weeks before the Dangerous World Tour. 69 shows, 27 countries. 4 continents Michael has been preparing for months. Training, choreography, costume fittings, production meetings that run until 4 in the morning. The rehearsal space is enormous. Converted warehouse, 12 backup dancers, 17 musicians, 4 background vocalists, the whole production compressed into one room, the air thick with sweat and hairspray and the electric tension of people doing something the world will see. Marcus Williams is standing in the back row, third from the left. He's been a professional dancer for 2 years, got this job through an audition. He almost missed because his car broke down, and he had to take 3 buses at midnight. He's 19 years old. First major tour rehearsing with Michael Jackson, still doesn't fully believe it, but there was something he didn't know yet. Marcus has been struggling with one section of the choreography, a transition in the opening sequence, a turn that flows into a moonwalk that flows into a freeze. The turn is wrong, keeps being wrong. He can feel it, but can't identify why the other dancers execute it cleanly. The assistant choreographer Travis has corrected him 3 times tonight, gently, professionally, but the corrections aren't landing. Something isn't clicking. Something inside Marcus keeps hesitating at the exact moment he needs to commit. Michael walks in at 2:17. Everyone straightens slightly, not out of fear, out of respect. The kind of automatic respect you give someone whose work you've spent your whole life studying. Michael isn't wearing anything special. Black track pants, white t-shirt, white socks, simple clothes for a man who is anything but simple. He nods to the room, says, "Hey," quietly, like he's grateful. Everyone showed up at 2 in the morning. They run the opening sequence. Michael moves through it with a precision that makes the professional dancers look twice. Not because he's showing off, because he's searching. Always searching for the thing that isn't right yet. Then, the sequence reaches the transition, the turn section, and Michael stops. Not dramatically, not with anger, just stops. Stands in the middle of the warehouse and looks at the space around him. And that was the exact moment. Everything changed. Michael doesn't call Marcus out, doesn't point, doesn't identify the problem publicly. He just says, "Run it again," from the top of the transition. He just watches they run it. Michael watches Marcus. Then he sits down on the floor right there on the warehouse floor, cross-legged, puts his face in his hands and doesn't move. The room goes silent, complete silence. 17 musicians, 12 dancers, 4 vocalists, lighting crew, all of them, watching Michael Jackson sitting on the floor with his face in his hands, not performing, not explaining. Just sitting. Travis, the assistant choreographer, steps forward gently. Says, "Michael, are you okay?" Michael doesn't answer. Marcus does something that surprises everyone, including himself. He walks forward, kneels down next to Michael and says quietly, just to him, "Are you okay?" And Michael looks up, his eyes are wet, not crying yet, but close, holding something back by years of practice at holding things back in public, and he looks at this 19-year-old dancer who he barely knows, who has been struggling with a transition for 3 hours, and says something unexpected. He says, "I can see it." Marcus doesn't understand, asks what Michael says. "The thing that's stopping you. I can see it in your body. You keep waiting for permission to commit." And the hesitation breaks the line. "I used to do the same thing every time. I was scared of being really seen, not performing, being seen. Wait a second. Don't miss this detail." Marcus stares at him, because this isn't a choreography correction. This is something completely different. This is Michael Jackson at 2 in the morning, telling him something true, something real. Marcus says quietly, "Why? Are you crying?" And Michael is still for a long moment, the whole room holding its breath. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke, Michael says. "Because that transition you keep struggling with, it's something I choreographed with my brother Jackie in 1978. We were working on something together, something we never finished. And every time I see that sequence, I see him. And some nights, it hits harder than others. Tonight, it hit hard. The room breathes. Marcus doesn't say anything. Wise doesn't have words for this. He's 19 years old and Michael Jackson just told him something private. Something that has nothing to do with the tour or the production. Just two people on a warehouse floor in the middle of the night, and Marcus stays there and lets the silence be what it is. You won't believe it. But what changes Marcus's life isn't what Michael says next. It's what Michael does next. Michael wipes his eyes, stands up, takes a breath, looks at the room, and says, "Okay, let's go again." Not like nothing happened. Not pretending, not performing a recovery, just standing up and choosing to continue, choosing to bring everyone back into the work without making the moment smaller or bigger than it was. They run the sequence again, and this time Marcus doesn't hesitate, commits to the turn fully. The line is clean, and Michael stops the music, immediately points at Marcus and says, "There, that's it, that's what it looks like." And then he smiles. The real smile, not the performance smile. The one that reaches his eyes. The rehearsal continues until 6 in the morning. What you've seen so far is nothing yet. 3 days later, Michael appears beside Marcus quietly, the way Michael always moved when he wasn't performing, just a person. Says, "Hey, can I ask you something?" Marcus says. "Of course," Michael says. "What did you want to be when you were a kid before dancing?" Marcus thinks. Says he wanted to be a teacher, wanted to teach music to kids in his neighborhood who didn't have access to lessons. People who had music inside them but nobody showed them how to get it out. Michael nods slowly like this. Answer landed somewhere. Says you should still do that. Marcus says, "I'm a dancer." Now Michael says you're a dancer and someday you'll be a teacher. Those aren't different things. The question is whether you keep teaching after the stage is gone. When the lights are off, that's when it matters most. Then Michael says he wants Marcus to teach the transition sequence to the younger dancers in the company. The one struggling with the same timing problem says. Marcus understands that problem now from the inside, and that kind of understanding is the most valuable thing a teacher can have. Not technique, not perfection, the experience of the struggle itself. Marcus says he doesn't know if he's qualified. Michael looks at him, says, "Nobody feels qualified until they start. You just decide the people in front of you matter more than your fear, and you begin." It wasn't his last chance, it was his beginning. The tour launches 3 weeks later. Marcus executes the opening sequence every night in every arena, sometimes in the middle of a show. He looks at the back of Michael's head on stage and thinks about a warehouse floor at 2 in the morning, and what it means that someone like that still cries about a brother in a moment. From 1978 still carries unfinished things, the way everyone carries unfinished things. The tour ends in November 1993. 6 months later, Marcus opens a small dance studio in Compton, where most kids don't have access to professional training. Teaches Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturday mornings. Teaches the ones who can't afford it for free. Names the studio after his mother's middle name, calls it May Dance Studio. Puts up a simple sign. No famous names, just a place where kids can learn. He incorporates the transition sequence into his beginning. Curriculum. Not because it's technically important, because it teaches commitment, because it teaches the difference between hesitation and trust, because you can only really understand it after getting it wrong for 3 hours in a warehouse. At 2 in the morning until something clicks. Years pass, the studio grows, hundreds of kids come through. Some go on to professional careers, some become teachers, some just carry the thing forward in ways that don't get documented but are real. In the summer of 2009, Marcus is teaching class. When his phone starts going off, he ignores it. But after class, a student approaches him. "Face strange," says Mr. Williams. "Have you seen the news?" Marcus checks his phone. Michael Jackson is gone. Marcus sits down on the floor of his studio, cross-legged, exactly the way Michael sat on the warehouse floor 17 years before. Puts his face in his hands and stays there. A 12-year-old student named Kezia walks over, kneels down next to him and says quietly, "Are you okay?" And the circle completes. Not because Marcus planned it, not because Michael planned it, but because that's what real teaching does. It moves forward. Through people, in ways that can't be predicted, only witnessed. Marcus looks up at Kezia, says something just hit hard tonight. Kezia stays there next to him on the floor. The way Marcus stayed next to Michael, and lets the silence be what it is. Michael Jackson started crying during a rehearsal in January of 1992, and nobody in that room knew why. Now, you know. And if you think about what Michael did that night, the sitting down, the honest moment, the choosing to stand back up. It wasn't unusual. It was exactly what he always did. The whole career was that standing up. Not because everything was fine, because it wasn't, but because the work mattered more than the fear. Because the people in front of you matter more than the hurt you carry. Who in your life needs to see that right now? Who needs to see someone sit on the floor for a moment and then stand back up, not pretending everything is okay, but choosing to continue anyway? Michael understood that a 9-year-old dancer on a warehouse floor in 1992 understood it too. And a 12-year-old girl named Kezia is learning it right now in a studio in Compton named after someone's mother. That's the real tour, the one that doesn't end when the lights go out.